I have to make a confession of this talk. It was kind of hard to bring over the message because both of us, we are working together. I'm working as agile coach, Daniel as software architect, and recently we experienced a lot of things where our jobs overlap and we do a lot of workshops together. We also experienced a lot of changes in the market and also in our daily life. So we somehow wanted to bring over this message, what is happening and what do we experience, what is working and what is not working in the field of agile coaching, and also, as we have seen in the keynote speech, about the software modernization. So many things are intertwined and it's complex. So nailing this talk was also complex, but I hope we did it. We will see it in the feedback then. Before we start into the topic, we decided to give you a bit the context and of the environment we are working in, which kind of appeared several times already at the tour in other talks, but this gentleman here, he said the world is now changing at the rate at which the basic systems, structures and cultures built over the past century cannot keep up with the demands being placed on them. Which is basically what we also wanted to introduce, and something that you know Kotter from change management, leading change, and this is something we very much experience on ourselves in the work life nowadays. We see a world of digital disruption. We need to think differently about how organizations are working and software products are created. So probably nothing particularly new, but we feel this is now more important than ever. So what is a disruptive change?
So this is a term from innovation research, and it describes something that the existing systems we are working in don't work anymore. So it's about models, products or services which doesn't fit anymore the problems which we have to solve. So we have in the last 10 years optimized our existing models, and now boom, something is changing and our models don't work anymore. So then we're talking about disruptive change. And there are different triggers when this can happen. It can be technology, it can be changing business models, or it can even be the market who is changing. And maybe to give you an example at what kind of disruptive changes we are thinking at, if you look at the energy market, if you look 10, 20 years into the past, there was the supplier, power supplier, and the consumer. And nowadays, every consumer can also be a supplier. So the whole system, there is a disruption from every consumer can supply into the energy market, which means not only technology has to change, but also the whole business model has to change. And here we are talking about disruptive changes, which are not only in one company, but over the whole ecosystem. So this is the kind of disruption we are thinking about very often and discussing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in contrast, I already mentioned it, so the incremental change, so improvement. So in the last 10, 15 years, we were talking about agile, about how can we improve the existing model, optimize the existing model. That's kind of easy when we compare it to disruptive changes. So it's a fundamental change where we are thinking about. And we heard it from Eduardo in the morning, and there was this great question from the audience. So we as a company working with an external partner, and we want to change our collaboration, how we are working together. And there was this great answer about, let's stop about talking about internal and external and focus more about what we want to solve together. So this is the big mind shift. So together, the Team Jepson is also here. Great to have you here. So these are the big changes we see.
Okay, probably you've heard that already. Companies that are unable to respond to that disruptive change will lose competitiveness or even disappear from the market. It's also the good book, The Age of Agile, also explains what Daniel already explained. we see many disruptive changes also in the recent years. I mean, we all experienced Corona. Now we have the Ukraine war, which also influences what Daniel said, the energy market, gas. We all want to get rid of gas, so it's not just an individual problem anymore, but a whole society issue and a governmental issue. So there's a lot of change, but we have something that we do not just want to survive in that environment. It's hard enough to survive in such an environment as a company. What we actually want to achieve is resilience. So we want to get better out of it. When we experience a change, we want to embrace it and get better as a company when we react to that. So that is kind of the context we wanted to give you. And now we come to the actual talk title. COMO, the Collaborative Revolution, Modeling a Resilient Future. Daniel has also the t-shirt of the COMO camp. So you might have some words about it if you want.
Yeah, so the idea of COMO is collaborative modeling. So doing something new together, identify it. So it's all about the collaboration approach. And half a year ago we had the COMO camp here at the Europa House, which I and 3 other guys organized, and Gorko were here, and Nick Thune was here, and so a lot of these people who are working with this kind of collaborative modeling tools like event storming, domain storytelling. So tools which help us to better understand the problems we want to solve, and tools which help us to model a different solution. And this is where COMO stands, where COMO comes from. And there is this big part of together. So I have to say it was great to have the talk seen before. So this is where COMO, the collaborative revolution, comes from. So,
and what I also liked really about the topic is that it's far away from the whole agile industrial complex with all the certifications, schemes and everything. It's just about how do we solve concrete problems. How do we solve complex problems and tools to do that. And that's a question to you. How many of the following methods are you applying in your company without knowing which problem you want to solve? That's kind of applying best practices without a problem statement. I've just put some of the things here.
Yeah. What was the last agile transformation? You were successful, so it's the small part. So. Or how many people are actually starting with platform teams or from project to product without knowing what we want to achieve? What's the impact, the effect we want to achieve with that?
And I'm not saying that I personally, as an agile coach, didn't run into exact the same issues when starting too soon applying some frameworks, like SAFe or something. But let's dig a bit deeper. So. What we've learned, what also many intelligent people told us before, using standard models to solve complex problems just doesn't work. So we need to spend enough time to formulate the problem we want to solve, because also some intelligent people stated things like the problem well stated is a problem half solved. And that was Albert.
Yeah. If I had only 1 hour to save the world, I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and only 5 minutes to solve it. Maybe we are not Albert, so maybe we need 50 minutes or longer, so let's be honest. But you get the idea, so it's about, we really must understand what we want to try to achieve and what we want to try to solve.
And I must say, nowadays, if we cannot get to that point, we refuse to start to implement something, because that's the root cause of all evil, when those methods become a means in itself without knowing what kind of problem we try to solve originally. So almost everywhere, what we both see from different perspectives probably, but we see that teams and organizations are not aligned on the problems they are trying to solve. We're quoting ourselves here because that's kind of a statement. But
so, and maybe you know this discussion about how effective are we and what are we optimizing for. So if you're thinking in silos and we are optimizing in silos, maybe we are optimizing something which we don't need anymore because it was at some time ago somebody thought it's a good idea, but time ran and it's not needed anymore. So.
And we've also seen that what Eduardo, thanks for the talk, it was kind of actually laying the foundation.
Yeah.
Because what we see is that people try, or organizations tend to solve the problem by introducing even more complexity. And when I talk about scaled agile framework, we talked a lot about, okay, we have so many dependencies, we need large solution safe. And I said, no, you don't need large solution safe. Please don't. So, but we also see that they are often the same, at least it feels like it, same issues or similar issues, different forms of concrete issues, but they have a similar pattern. So why is it then so complex to formulate and align a problem statement in organizations? And then we come to something we've also heard before, because we live operate in socio-technical systems. So whatever Daniel does here on the software side or software architecture side has a direct influence to the organization, the people. So we also have an influence on the people, and they need to work differently. This is a change in the working environment. We also heard about leadership topics here. So it's all intertwined. And the root is also Conway's law. So the communication structures of the organization reflect the architecture. And why are we mentioning this? Because we experience that this is true. It happens. We see it happening. That's the question is, okay, so it's all complex, so we can just shoot ourselves, so what should we do now?
Maybe some addition, if I can go back to the slide before. So what's here really missing also is the fact of time. So if we go into organizations and look into organizations, many organizations have a picture how they were from 10 years ago. But this is a picture who is changing over time. We have new people, we have people who are leaving, we have young, we have old people, we have different cultures. There's a real change in companies, how these pictures look like over time. And there are not many companies out there who know how how this complex environment transformed over time. So this is often the information which is lost in history I'm talking about. Yeah.
So how do we tackle this? You might have seen this one. So I think since 2001 we know or we understand that business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. Okay, it was on a team level, it was kind of a different...
Then it's together again.
Together. Yeah. And what we see, okay, it's so obvious, still it doesn't work nowadays. Why is it? I mean, we had heard last year Conor McConnell, the agile revolution is slow, so we're still not there, but our belief is that it's now more true than ever. And not just on team level, but also on a strategic level, as well as on team level. So these kind of levels must be interlinked more than ever. Why is it more complex since the early 2000s?
So, and we really thought about what's happening in the market in the last years, so in the last 10 to 20 years, and what has changed since then, since this statement. And one very, very important part is IT made it possible to support complex business processes. I'm working in the public sector, and I thought about how the law to get money from the government. 10 years ago there were 3 factors. Today we have 41 factors in some models. So IT enabled us to solve simple problems complex. So this is one thing. Yeah. Then we have a lot of existing systems developed in the last 20 years. So I think everybody of you know the term of legacy software or existing software the company runs on. So the software which actually makes the money for the company. Yeah. Business models are changing faster, lots of software changing business models. And more often companies have multiple products, so multiple business models. So if we think that, let's take Amazon. Amazon started as a bookstore, and now they have data centers, different business models, competing goals. And it's something I think we can relate. So thank you, Eduardo.
Thank you for the drawing.
It was really, we thought, how can we draw this? And we have the time and the complexity. And we have on the one side, so these are the business processes, so this is our interpretation, and there are changes and modernization and so stuff is going on. And we have rigid companies are getting bigger, and then we have this complex big corporations and holdings, and with all this law environment which we have to think of.
Okay, so when we talk about this complex world, I think everyone has experienced VUCA now. It's not just a word anymore. We have seen it, we've experienced it in like volatile, uncertainty, ambiguity, and was war das? Clarity.
Clarity.
So all those factors that we see is something that we experience in organizations whenever we need a change that is more disruptive than just an incremental change. We address all those issues. So what we need to tackle this kind of complex problems, we need an approach to succeed with such changes. And what I said before, we do not just want to survive, but we want to have a model, or at least an approach that leads to more resilience and better learning, and learning as a whole organization what we can do now. And we tried, now it gets to our experience, we tried to somehow formulate, and this is based on a lot of research books that we've read and digested from what we see in our coaching and consulting business, what is really true. For example, what are the things that we need in place in order to succeed with such a change? A set of guiding principles for collaboration. We will come to that later. Also an organization and leaders within that incentivize solving the concrete problem above all other personal or political agendas. So you might have seen these change initiatives going on, and 3 different board members who have 3 different goals, and at some stage of that change process you end up with that issue on the top. Or you have some personal agendas with the managers that interfere with those kind of issues that we want to solve, like be it a cloud transformation, or getting more effective or faster in delivering software, for example. So what we also need in addition, a tool set that enables us to break down complex problems into manageable pieces so that we can start working on the solution step by step, which is kind of an agile approach here. Yeah. Okay, we know incremental, but often the problem is, where should we start? So we have a huge complex problem, we want to start somehow, and therefore we need methods to help us, Como, like coming from a complex domain into manageable pieces. So the guiding principles that we see very important: trust, transparency, alignment, trust above all other. And when we need collaboration, for example, of more business departments, it happens all the time that there is no real collaboration. It's just they need to work together, they must work together, but they are not really actually trying to solve the problem, but more trying to win their game, whatever this is. We need transparency on the process, and also real alignment on what kind of problems are we trying to solve. And this sums up somehow, sorry for the theorists here, there are many other factors and so on, but those are for us important. So we need psychological safety in that change.
And some very important part what you have mentioned is, we were talking about political stuff and the board members. So when we talk about collaboration, we talk about everybody has to collaborate. It doesn't matter which role you have in the organization, how the static structure is in the organization. It's about, do we have a trust relationship with our C-level management? Can we be transparent what our problems are? Can we align what our priorities are? Do we have this kind of situation in our company in which we are working on? And this is the very important part when we are talking about psychological safety. It's the precondition to come to psychological safety. Why are these important parts when we are talking about disruptive change? There's some missing link. Because disruptive change and the VUCA effect, some cause, what we see very often in companies is fear. So we are living in a world of fear and we have to go out of this world again. So we have to tackle uncertainty. And it's easier to tackle uncertainty as a team together than alone, and to find solutions alone. Yeah, and about psychological safety, we have heard already something about, so we need some comfort zone. And when we are talking about disruptive changes, we are most often out of our comfort zones. And this is very important to know, that we are leaving our comfort zones and there is something new. Something is really changing and we have to make these things explicit. So stop to talk about implicit stuff. Make everything explicit. To be able to make it explicit, we need trust, transparency, these kind of things.
So when we come to the organization environment preconditions that we've seen, the incentive scheme is more important than you might think when we work with organizations. So are we really incentivized to solve the problem and not political or personal agendas? And ideally we see organizations that change in a way that teamwork and collaboration is incentivized above the silo thinking, and leadership models are based on collaboration. So we seldomly talk about leadership models. We should talk more about it and how we want to have that in organizations. We have some, where's Swanee? Is Swanee here? Yeah, he can talk about this a lot better than me. So this is some minor some aspects that we see are important, and what we also see here, plan together across the organization, which is also often missing. We have our top management, middle management, and teams that need to suffer from something that was not really clear communicated to them via they needing to change or something. And that is now where we come to the toolbox, because when we thought what worked in our experience in our recent past, is always when, like the workshop we have seen from Eduardo, a bunch of people just come together and solve a problem together in a workshop, because whatever the problem is, like let's say the cloud transformation, that's my availability bias was recently, suddenly we figure out that there is another goal behind it. It's not just because it sounds cool and management wants it, but because we want to scale our solution to the outside market of Austria, to the whole group. And they told us they will only take cloud solutions. And if we want to be the IT supplier, we need cloud solutions. So it was a different goal that was clear suddenly for the architects in that workshop. And this changed also how we approach and what the next steps have
so
been.
And this is a great picture, because this clear goal was here on the C-level, on the strategic level, but the architects were living somewhere there, and nobody before told them that this is the company strategy and that is the goal where the company want to go. So the point was to enable the collaboration above these areas.
So it sounds a bit too easy to just bring people together and talk, but it actually works. So yeah, we have to talk, and something what we are doing is, because we are talking with a lot of people, and you have experienced it, sometimes it's not easy to talk with these kind of people and bring them to the same room and
use the same language, and we have to translate and all these kind of things. And what we are doing is what happened the last 20, 25 years. There were lots of workshop formats and tools which we can learn from how to do these kind of workshops, how to bring people together, how to moderate, how to facilitate. And these are some of them. And there are at least 100 people I know from who call them, these are collaborative modeling tools. And they were invented from the area of designing software systems. And there are lots of people about thinking, okay, if we program software systems, let's think about what do we need to program our organization, our organizational ware. So let's try out these kind of tools to reprogram the organizations and the people, how we are interacting together. And this is something we can take, I think, from here. We don't have to reinvent the wheel again. We can reuse these kind of tools on a different level, in a different perspective. So bringing people together and reusing this kind of tools.
Yeah. For example, in the Como camp we had with the inventor of event storming, Brandolini, where we have seen that you can do this on a very strategic level as well on a very team down-to-earth level. It's just what we like as agile coaches, putting a lot of post-its on the walls and talking about the chain of events happening in a business process, for example. So it really helps to facilitate, break down complex issues, find out hidden assumptions, and start the conversation. So it's all there already, and it's really an art also to facilitate such workshops then, of course. But at the end, it goes down to we need an environment where we can openly talk in that kind of workshops, where we really address all the issues, where we trust each other, that we want to solve the issue at hand. And then we have a tool suite that supports us in facilitation. And what we try to do is to somehow derive what our approach when we, for example, as consultants come into new companies. And this is where we had hours of talks because it's kind of a meta model. It's not so easy to tackle this, but it all starts with we need an aligned vision and spend enough time on formulating the problem statement or the vision. What is it where we want to go there? What we want to achieve? And we said here a joint business and IT vision. That's often the problem. Business wants something, IT is the supplier that we usually press with costs and try to bring down in costs, but we do not talk on eye level, on the strategic level. So that's this first step also.
Something we experience very often in bigger corporations is there is the department lead of IT, and it's one company, and there's the department of business, and it's one company. And from the static structure of organization, they have competing goals. Maybe we have to bring them together to align the goals. So this is one thing which we are trying at this step, so to make these things visible.
Yeah, and suddenly you have an IT excellence transformation starting in the IT department, and they start implementing SAFe on their own, and business doesn't know what's going on here. So this aligned thing is the important word here. And then something we learned from solution focus, we imagine the perfect future. Usually what we try to figure out is where are we on that journey to the future. We call it now like kind of an exploration phase. We always start with interviewing people, talking a lot with different levels of the organization and challenge them on the problem statement we got, for example, and see, okay, how is the company operating right now? And while identifying the current situation, we also start understanding the underlying problem better on the company itself. And now we try not to reach this state instantly, but the question is always, okay, how do we start the journey?
So the question is always, what's the smallest step which we can do together to reach the vision, the future, the far future? And that's the idea of we want to iterate in short iterations, because what we have learned is that over the time the problems are changing and the vision is changing. So having these big upfront plans don't work. And even this means for the strategic level, if the people on the strategic level know we can somehow reprioritize we can change our strategic decisions, and IT and business can opt in making this, I call it all the time, these breakpoints in our plans, then it's really starting to, that companies are changing how they work together.
So basically the first step is this. We want to have some first concrete steps on the journey, and we start doing something. We get feedback, and this is what we try to somehow picture in that thing. We start, for example, on the org change level. We want to become more agile, or we want to work together closely, or we have some organizational change. This reflects something. We need to change our IT systems. This might reflect back to changes in the business processes, because often companies buy a new product, and this product influences how the business works with that kind of product. And so this is interlinked. And what Daniel mentioned is important, that we set up like an environment where we learn on all levels on that journey, and we can move and change direction. We had many examples where the org change led to like platform change. We started with platform groups, teams, and suddenly we needed to change HR systems, because we figured out HR, the incentive model for people was not fitting teamwork. So this was some bubble that popped up on the journey in the middle. Then some other bubble that popped up was, okay, how do we work together with suppliers? We only know fixed price work contracts. But we want to work agile. How is this going on? So, okay, we need to work with legal and procurement to change that. So there is a lot to do on technical level and organizational level always.
Yeah. So maybe let's come back to this example of cloud transformation. So if we as a company, so we were some time ago talking with a company about cloud transformation, and this was, we want to go to the cloud. And the first thing which we ask is, what do you want to achieve? What's the problem or the goal you want to solve? You want dogfooding your internal things, want to have it as a product in your group. So want to offer your internal development thingy and make it as a product for your group. This is the product, is your vision. And you need the cloud to be able to scale the stuff. So this was the vision we tried to formulate together. And then we started and went back and talked with the people who needed to be on board. It's like procurement. It's like all the legal stuff. It's like all the software architects. And then together we thought about what has to change in this and in which order the thing has to change to come to a situation where we can blend stuff. Because what we experienced in the past, if you're not going that way, you have this ripple effect. You start changing something and then it's going boom, and then there are lots of changes and it's completely out of control. So what we are trying to establish is, and what we heard about with team topologies, with the enabling teams, for such transformations, to build up some enabling team which helps us in the transformation, in the change, and to get a picture how could be the path going to the future. But all the time with the thinking, we have a first step, then we have to think, to reflect together in the team, and then go the next step. So it's something similar we heard in your talk about the reflection together, and then to define the next steps.
Good. So our key learnings, the collaboration agile manifesto principle, basically, but the collaboration business IT is key to change, especially disruptive changes. And we have a lot of tools in place that support us. I should have translated this. No? We don't talk about agile. I've written a blog post, stop talking about agile. It just leads to the wrong discussion.
In German, we would say, schon gar nicht agile Transformation, schon. At least not agile transformation.
Yeah, don't talk about agile transformation. That's already, many have undergone this, and it's leading to fear. But we use the tools and we live agile. That's the important thing. We know it works. Agile works, and all the tools work. But we use them while solving concrete business problems, and we don't use it as a means in itself. And we find the vision for. It's important that you find the vision for your own context and collaboratively model your resilient future. So, thank you.
So, I think we have some time for some questions.
So, while you were talking, I was looking for something on Como, and the only place that comes up is the lake in Italy. But it's a thing, I believe. Collaborative modeling.
Yeah, collaborative modeling. So
where do I find more?
Yeah, so it's a term about this. A lot of people are thinking about it. What could it be? What is it? And we had this year the first time the Como camp here in Vienna, and we are saying
it's like DevOps. It started with a conference.
Yeah, and the point is we started from the statement we want to understand business better to be able to have better solutions. And this is what all these collaborative modeling tools from which it started, like impact mapping, domain storytelling, event storming, you name it, all have this idea of looking into the better future. And all these tools also follow this idea of we have to collaborate together for a better future. And there are lots of people who are thinking about how to use these tools on a corporate level. So out of the software or design, development thingy, and yeah, this is something completely new. So there is not much out there, but you can think about all the people who are talking about that a lot. So it's also heavily coming from the team topology space. It's coming from domain-driven design people. Yeah, this is so the area where it's popping up.
And it's happening in 2024?
It's happening in 2024.
May 6 to 8?
Yeah. Also here in Vienna, so.
Good to know.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Maybe it's a more personal question for the two of you. This is hard.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard.
So what do you do to stay energized in situations or stay motivated in situations where you're just like, oh.
Sometimes I'm saying, do we really want to discuss this on the political level? Is it worth the time being on this earth? Sometimes you have to state such hard words to get the people back again about, okay, what we're talking about. And my personal energy is looking for a better future. So let's keep the past in the past. Something I learned from the event storming and event-driven people is something which has happened in the past happened. It's a fact. We cannot change it anymore. So stop trying to change the past. Try to change the future. We can. If we work together, we can. So.
He's obviously better than me. Not getting depressed. No, but
I got this question very often. About where do you put the energy? Where you get the energy when working with such kind of people?
But to put something in addition, I think it's for me personally, it's also important to you get involved in that kind of change, and it's personal involvement often. And for me, coaching helps. Supervision, that we often also talk and get a bit of a distance again, so that you also repeatedly keep the goal in mind that you also have. So I think it's you say it, it's hard. It's because it's difficult. There's a lot of resistance. So you figure out the vision and you can't get there. It's getting slow. So there's a lot of energy that we invest also. Yeah.
And really, energy is coming from the people which we're working with. So if people are coming to us with the mindset, it's impossible in our environment to change something, and we were able to change one thing, it's possible. Do you remember what we have changed in the past and what we can now do? It's the best thing ever. You have help coming out of the comfort zone and start working differently. So.
We were talking about a lot of tooling and there are a lot of methods out there. Is there, with Como, context Como, is there one place to look up like a guidance, which tool is available for which challenge, and so how we know it also from liberating structures, for instance?
So no, there's not one space. It's about the mindset. So Como is about, so if you look at the conference, we have the conduct, be open, be honest, be respectful. This is the mindset what we as people have who are doing such kind of things. And it's all the people who are working in this area. So this is what we stated as the people who are working in this Como space. So there's not this one thing, it's something new, so we haven't invented, and it's not a goal to invent something like safe and these frameworks and these perfect models. So the idea is there are lots of tools and experience in form of humans. Use them to build up your own model to be resilient in the ever-changing world.
Yeah. My question is, so most of us are techies here because tools will change the future for sure. But when talking about the C-level or legacy and so on, they're all thinking in costs. So is there a chance to have measurements or the KPIs or so to define that this is worth it?
That's a good question. We recently tried to nail like the C-level message for that, and usually, of course, there are measures, there are goals for C-level, like being more competitive, lowering costs, getting out better products, so the key dimensions you want to achieve. So usually that's good to know and also good to understand what are the goals from C-level, because we have also seen in the changing goals we want to reduce costs, but we want to also be agile, and suddenly those two things collide, and agile led to firing people, which is that because it was not spoken out. So it's good to have that C-level alignment.
I have a concrete example. So yesterday, I got a call, and one of these managers was asking, "Yeah, we have this very big business problem, and we need now a team, and we have to develop a solution." And there were these two important questions: how fast are you? So when do we have the solution, and how much does it cost? And at that point, we know there is one paper size about what the problem is that we should solve, and then I asked, it's not a problem, this is already a solution which we are having here. So what is the problem which we should solve? And we started to give not the answer about costs and duration, but what we worked out was we give you the option of this is a plan what we can do. So we said, we as an IT department, we have now a high-performing team which can start from Monday evaluating with you what's the concrete problem you want to solve and what would be the best solution. What is the priority of your request? Should we start working from Monday with the team, with you together? And then tell us how long we have to work together until it's good enough. So let's talk about priorities. And then there was this, priorities. And then I asked the next question, So is it that high prior that as an IT department we stop everything what we're currently doing and only working on this thing? No, it's not that prior. So the discussion changed from how much does it cost and what's the priority and how long do we want to invest. And that's a completely different discussion, because then you can talk about what you want to achieve as a company. And then you can talk about how does this align to the strategy. And these are the real hard discussions to get C-level to this kind of transparency, because when you're talking about costs, there are some hidden agendas most of the time, and you have to make these hidden agendas transparent. Hope this helps you.
But I think time-wise, we are here all day, so if there are any further questions, thanks for staying with us.